Happy Friday. How's everybody doing? Hello from Nashville this time. I'm at my girlfriend's place out here in Tennessee where Tight End U is happening right now. George Kittle is hosting it, but today we're not going to be talking about tight ends unless you guys have some questions about them. We instead will be talking about Aaron Banks, the new 49ers offensive lineman, the big guard who probably is going to start at right guard and give the 49ers a much needed upgrade there. They drafted him out of Notre Dame, but I think even more notably, the 49ers drafted Aaron Banks out of the Bay Area. Huge guard, but he can move. And we know that he can move. Well, we've known that he can move ever since Jim Harbaugh recruited him out of high school, where he was a basketball player at El Cerrito back in the East Bay. So I'm going to share my screen to go over some of the stuff that I'm going to feature today. Had a big article in The Athletic on Aaron Banks. And this one looks like this. Sharing it right now. There it is. Basketball feet, football power. 49ers rookie Aaron Banks began his athletic rise on the El Cerrito hardwood. If you're watching this live, the link is right there on the side. If you're watching this later on, I'm going to pin it up in the comment section and you can check it out. Now, cool thing about Aaron Banks as we look at this article is everybody remember when Najee Harris was being recruited by Jim Harbaugh in Michigan in 2016? Well, Harbaugh also made national headlines with Aaron Banks' recruitment at the same time. So whenever Jim came back about 2 years after finishing his 49ers head coaching job, he came back to the Bay Area to recruit Najee Harris. Well, part of that effort involves swinging by El Cerrito High School to recruit Aaron Banks. That's Jim Harbaugh working the chain gang at an El Cerrito St. Mary's game in 2016 to do everything he could to get in front of Aaron Banks. Now, Michigan was a finalist for Banks' services, but he obviously ended up not joining the Wolverines. Aaron Banks ended up going to Notre Dame. But that whole wild recruitment of Najee Harris back in that 2016 season, people forget that Aaron Banks was also center stage of the spotlight of that, and it just so happened to be a former 49ers coach recruiting him hard about 4 or 5 years before the 49ers themselves selected Aaron Banks in the second round of the 2021 draft. Want to show you one of the featured little highlight reels that I put into my article. This is Aaron Banks on the basketball floor. Now, this is fun because this guy could really move for being 320, 330 pounds, and you could see his court awareness. Watch some of these post moves. I mean, this is a little bit of a power move, but it's combined with that finesse. He can really angle his body. He can really, get that footwork in position to get off a good shot. And obviously he has good touch. He knows how to use the glass to put home the bucket. He also, according to his high school coaches, had a very, very solid defensive presence. As you could see in that one most recent clip, he's going to post another guy up here. There's that court vision, good pass to set up a layup. Oh, there's a block. Now, they called a foul on this play, but it wasn't on Banks. It was on his teammate. You can see him right there. Me? No, that wasn't me. It was on number 10, I believe, or number 5. But it wasn't on 33. 33, you could see just dominating here. This is at the Torrey Pines Holiday Classic in San Diego, where Banks actually led El Cerrito to a win over John Lynch's alma mater. So John Lynch went to Torrey Pines High School so many years ago. Aaron Banks, playing post for El Cerrito High School, had, I think, 12, 13 points as El Cerrito beat Torrey Pines, which is John Lynch's alma mater. That was back in, I think, late 2015. Later in 2016, Aaron Banks helped lead his El Cerrito team to the Northern California State Championship game at Arco Arena, or whatever it was called, Power Balance Pavilion at that point. They've since shut that place down. They're about to tear it down. And there, Aaron Banks matched up against Jack Wilson, who was a 7-footer from Junipero Serra High School, which is the alma mater of Tom Brady, Barry Bonds, Lynn Swann, and San Mateo. So Banks's El Cerrito team played that Sarah team in the Northern California State Championship game, and Banks more than held his own against the 7-footer on the basketball floor, using that power and that athleticism to get it done. I'm going to answer a couple questions here. I couldn't wrangle an invite to tight end U. Well, I'm not a tight end, so only tight ends were invited to tight end U. I don't know what I would be doing out there in the heat. It's hot here in Nashville. So I'll definitely write about tight end U. We'll talk to George Kittle about it after, but that is a tight end exclusive event. I mean, even Tim Tebow didn't get an invite to tight end U, and that guy is actually a tight end. So it's only the top 40, 50 tight ends in the league, hotel rooms, everything booked for them. And I'm sure they probably had to pay some tuition or something to get into it. It's going to be interesting to hear the details of that and to see if that whole thing that George Kittle started this year is going to, grow and become an annual event, because you think what George Kittle has done for the tight end position, his biggest contribution is obviously the contract that he signed last season. The market for tight ends before George Kittle signed that deal was 10.2 million per year, maybe 10.8 at the highest. I forgot exactly what it was, but it was way outdated as far as the best contract on the market. And so some people were talking about, George Kittle is going to really struggle to wrangle out a deal of more than 12 million per year. He signed a deal that was worth 15 million per year, which I think was significant because it completely reset the market for tight ends, put them on the map with receivers. So now the next star that signs a contract at that position is going to sign for at least 16 million a year, if that goes any way near how it usually goes with these contracts. And now you're starting to talk about decent receiver money. It's not wide receiver one money. That gap probably will never be closed, or it won't be closed soon. But George Kittle at least made it a little bit smaller with his deal. And now he's trying to bring, more awareness to that tight end position through this tight end U, through National Tight End Day. He's done stuff like that. So interesting stuff going on in Nashville, but I'm afraid there's, not much to do if you're not a tight end, which I'm not. Maybe if I had played football, that could have been my position. I am 6'5", so the athletic abilities were used in swimming, though. My mom actually didn't let me play football back in the day. She's a doctor, and you probably see why. But I've always loved football. It's always been a passion of mine. It's always been something that I've just devoured. I've always hung out with football guys. Back in high school, just getting to know the intricacies of the game. Even though I was focused so heavily on my swimming, I love football. I'd be on the sidelines of those games in high school. Mount Whitney, they won the Valley Championship. Back when I was there. That was the Central Valley Championship, not the San Fernando Valley. That was a big deal back there. I mean, if you think about the Central Valley in California, it's like the Texas of California as far as the mentality with which high school football is treated. And I think that's why I developed my passion and my love for the game. And really knowledge for the game too, just talking to people, just knowing the inside and outs of film, even back in high school, because I was so interested in it. So I wonder, would I have been a tight end? That probably, I don't necessarily add bulk easy enough to be an offensive lineman. So at 6'5", I think that it would have either been a receiver or a tight end. I don't know what other position it would have been. So maybe I should go to tight end U. Maybe I should ask George if I could swing by. But I think they only have one more day. I think they're going Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Anyway, let's talk about what we're supposed to talk about, and that's Aaron Banks. And, for this, I have to share some audio with my screen as well. So if this doesn't work, please let me know in the comments section. But I am going to share the audio. And let's first watch the video that everybody knew about, and that's Aaron Banks' emotional reaction to being drafted by the 49ers. Hopefully, the sound on this sucker works.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? This is John Lynch from the 49ers. You ready to come back to the Bay Area, buddy? That's great, man. Well, welcome to the Niners, man. We're thrilled to have you. Big fans of you. I'm going to hand you over to Coach Shanahan, okay?
Aaron.
Hello.
Yeah. Enjoy this moment. This is Coach Shanahan.
How you doing?
Hey, man, we're pumped. Hey, we've talked to McGlinchey all day. He's been begging us to get you here. We're ready to have another Golden Domer, man. So.
Oh my God, this is crazy.
Hey, man, we're happy for you, happy for us, dude. Enjoy this moment.
All right, the 49ers shared that one. I'm going to stop the share, and now we're going to watch another one to see what all that commotion actually looked like, because we didn't have access to that video until I was working on this article on Aaron Banks talking to his high school football and his high school basketball coach from El Cerrito. And one of them was at the draft party, which was held in Sonoma, where Aaron Banks actually thought, well, I may have to fly across country. Maybe Pittsburgh will pick me. Maybe the New York Giants will pick me. He was ready at this house that his family and friends had rented out in Sonoma to celebrate the draft. He was ready to fly anywhere. But he got that call that you just saw from John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And the whole room, I mean, I love these draft reaction videos, the raw emotion of them. You heard Mike McGlinchey mention it on that one. He was Aaron Banks' teammate at Notre Dame. McGlinchey's video from a couple years ago was epic. I mean, that was at some kind of pizza parlor outside of Philadelphia, and just the emotion that flowed through that camera lens in that video was something that I think anybody, even somebody who's not a sports fan, would appreciate. Well, this Aaron Banks video, that, just from what we saw from the 49ers, you could tell that was louder and more passionate than the average one. And it turns out it was because everybody was just so damn happy that Aaron Banks was going to be able to stay home. Hometown kid, East Bay, was going to be able to stay in the Bay Area and play for the San Francisco 49ers. So you heard all that yelling on the other end of the line. Now why don't we look to see what the video of all that commotion looked like. And again, I will make sure that the audio works on this one. And here you go. This is when he's receiving the call. So you've seen this from the other end. This is John Lynch talking right now.
Let's go. We ain't got to go nowhere. Let's go.
And here comes Roger Goodell. It's about to get really crazy in that house in Sonoma. Peek him on that TV to the right.
I need a emoji. I'm not happy. Here we go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right.
Just awesome. We'll let that play in the background here because I like every second of it. It's like 2.5 minutes long, so it's not the shortest one of those reaction videos, but just the palpable joy. I think you heard somebody just almost in disbelief during that video say he's staying home or he's coming home because he was at Notre Dame for the past 4 seasons. So just imagine that. Imagine growing up in an area, dedicating your whole life to the craft, one that features such a literal pot of gold at the end of the road, and then you attain that by being drafted. That's good enough, but not only that, but you're also drafted to the hometown team, and then you see just the emotion of that moment packed all into once. Pretty cool stuff. And you also get an idea about how big Aaron Banks and how big his family is. That's one of the comments that I'm seeing come through right now. Aaron is a guy he weighed 330 pounds at the Senior Bowl, maybe even more. I think it was like 338 pounds at the Senior Bowl. He's massive. I mean, Aaron Banks is a big dude, but his mom was a bodybuilder and his dad was a football player. So you immediately start to see how he got to be so big. Now, I showed you the high school basketball highlights a little earlier. You could see that he already had a lot of that size at El Cerrito in high school. But the reason the 49ers really fell in love with Aaron Banks is not because of the size, that they love the size, but it's because of the size quickness combination. They need to have both.
I'm Guy. I'm John. It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this
Absolutely all costs. It's for the 49ers. You can't just have the big slow guy running out there in the outside zone. It just doesn't work. They had that with Trent Brown in their first season. That was when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch took over in 2017. And Trent Brown was a good pass protector. There's no doubt about it. But the 49ers just weren't able to run what they wanted to run to the right side of the field in that 2017 year behind Trent Brown, who at times was like 380 pounds, I think, when he came to the NFL. He might have gotten a bit lighter under the Shanahan regime. But Trent Brown just wasn't a fit for the 49ers outside zone blocking scheme. They need players who can move. Hence the drafting of Mike McGlinchey, who obviously can move. Now, the problem with Mike McGlinchey to replace Trent Brown has been that he obviously hasn't been as good of a pass protector. That's something the 49ers hope improves. If it doesn't, yes, I do think they're in trouble. They need better pass protection out of Mike McGlinchey. Even Mike McGlinchey says that is very necessary. But he is one of the better run blockers at the tackle position in all of the NFL. In fact, I think last year, if you look at the PFF grades, it was 1-2 between Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams at the tackle position. So all of a sudden, when the 49ers have these guys who can both, bring size and bring quickness, they have the ability to run block, and that makes their offense ambidextrous. They also want to have that at the right guard position. Now, Daniel Brunskill, who played there for a lot of the season last year, can run block. He can move. He's a former tight end at San Diego State. But the 49ers they've suffered the reverse, downside of all this. And it's the same issue that I just talked about regarding Mike McGlinchey, is that they haven't been able to anchor all that well in pass protection, especially on the right side of the line, because of that focus on the run blocking. Because those guys are so athletic, they're all former tight end backgrounds. It's tough when you get a bull rush coming straight at you from one of these really powerful NFL either defensive ends, or in the case of the right guard position of Daniel Brunskill or whoever was playing right guard, because that's been a position of issue, interior linemen. And this is the division of Aaron Donald, obviously. So there's obviously capable bodies on the inside ready to take advantage of some light offensive interior linemen. Aaron Banks is huge. He's 330 pounds. The 49ers believe he can anchor. He only gave up 2 sacks throughout his entire college career at Notre Dame. But just as importantly, they believe that he can move. And that's why I wrote this story about Aaron Banks and his abilities on the basketball court, because he started as a basketball player through AAU all the way to summer ball at El Cerrito, his freshman season, entering high school as an incoming freshman. He was a basketball player. He knew how to move. He knew how to position his body. He knew where his teammates were. He would direct traffic, which is so important as an offensive lineman, because that's why the 49ers got Alex Mack at the center position, because they needed somebody who knew where the other 4 guys had to be. Well, Aaron Banks knew where the other 4 guys had to be on the basketball floor. I think his intelligence, his cerebral mastery of the nuances of, the movements of and cohesion necessary at the offensive line position, I think that's going to complement Alex Mack really well at right guard. So you're going to have Mack at center, Aaron Banks at right guard. Finally, for the 49ers, have somebody with some size who can anchor and pass protection. I think he has the movement capabilities, as you've seen, as I'm talking about. And I think that he has the mental capabilities that complement Alex Mack at that problematic portion of the 49ers offensive line. It's been center and right guard that's killed this team over the past couple of years. In the Super Bowl, center and right guard really killed the 49ers. Weston Richburg was hurt. I don't think Mike Person was particularly healthy at right guard. Chris Jones went to work on the 49ers. Those are 2 spots they really have to shore up. And by extension, if you have Mack and you have Banks playing well at right guard, as the 49ers hope he will, I do think you take some pressure off Mike McGlinchey. I do think that you can expect Mike McGlinchey to become a better pass protector. So it all kind of works in unison. That's where the 49ers hope to see Aaron Banks. And I think that his resume, I think you see the how popular he is amongst his peers, amongst his family there. the fact that he's staying home and the fact that he can bring that unique physical skill set to the 49ers that we've been examining today, I think it makes sense very quickly why the 49ers spent a second-round pick on a guard. When you consider the circumstances, the need for this team, and the special type of talent the 49ers are getting in Aaron Banks, because of the physical parameters that I outlined, all of a sudden it makes sense why Kyle Shanahan spent a draft pick on an offensive guard for the first time as a head coach. The 49ers had spent only 3 picks on offensive linemen in the 4+ drafts that Kyle Shanahan had been in charge until they picked Aaron Banks. And all 3 of those picks had been on players that they projected as offensive tackles. Only one of those picks, and that was Mike McGlinchey, came in a premium round. The other ones came on Colton McKivitz and Justin School, and those were in the 5th and 6th rounds. So this second-round pick used on Aaron Banks was, in a way, an unprecedented investment by the 49ers brass in the offensive line. But it just goes to show you how dire the brass acknowledged that the situation had become. And this is something that benefits both Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Somebody asked me the other day, what is the best move that the 49ers have made of this 2021 offseason? Anybody who just wants to give you a quick answer will probably dish out, oh, they traded up to number 3 and drafted Trey Lance, and they'll say that's the best move. I don't think you can call that the best move because we don't have a return on that investment yet. We'll see what Trey Lance ends up being. You guys know more than anybody was high on Trey Lance entering the draft. I predicted the 49ers would pick Trey Lance. I thought they should pick Trey Lance. That was my recommendation. I think he's a great long-term play, but I also recognize that every quarterback comes with that, well, what if it doesn't work out tag on him? So Trey Lance has to work out, and he has to work out at a very, very high level for the 49ers' very aggressive move to trade up to number 3 to justify itself. I, because of that, think that the team's actual best move was their heavy, heavy investment into the offensive line. Because part of that heavy investment was re-signing Trent Williams, and he's a known commodity. You know what you're going to get out of Trent Williams. And I think a player like Aaron Banks, when you watch how steady he was at Notre Dame, a player like Jalen Moore, when you see the beef and the size increase that the 49ers have gotten out of him, and you see how steady he was at Western Michigan, I think those are, those aren't volatile stocks. I think the 49ers have finally gotten offensive linemen that they know are going to be just solid players at the NFL level, especially with Aaron Banks. There was a question about Mike McGlinchey's weight a couple of years ago and the whole tight end conversion thing that the 49ers had to do. He followed a lot of the Joe Staley path in college, same coaching staff, same kind of positional development curve. But the problem with the Joe Staley development path is that not everybody's Joe Staley. Not everybody's going to be able to pass block like a lineman, but move like a wide receiver, as Joe Staley did. Staley was the fastest offensive lineman in NFL history. I've never seen anybody else run a 4.6 40 from the offensive line position. Have you? So I think that Joe Staley was definitely the fastest offensive lineman, especially in the modern era, that we've seen. And he was able to do it at a heavy weight. So Mike McGlinchey has half worked out for the 49ers. We'll see if that other 50% ends up coming to fruition for the team as well. But with a player like Aaron Banks, you have the weight and you have the quickness. I think it's as close to a slam dunk as possible. I think that this is a guy that's going to be solid at the NFL level. And that's why I think that the 49ers' overarching investment in the offensive line between Trent Williams and Aaron Banks, and of course, Jalen Moore, I think that was the move of the offseason, because I think that it's going to benefit both Jimmy Garoppolo now and Trey Lance potentially in the future. Everybody is going to talk about the sexy move, right? The QB move or the running backs, but it's the trenches that are going to make this work for the 49ers. They are what broke things down in 2019. I mean, they made it work throughout that 2019 season. The depth in the trenches through guys like Brunskill made it work for the 49ers throughout their run in 2019. But they also saw their demise in the Super Bowl when they couldn't block Chris Jones. They could not hold a clean pocket when it really mattered late in that Super Bowl. And they saw a demise last season when all those injuries up front created havoc again up front. This has been a bad pass protecting team, and players like Aaron Banks are the 49ers' potential ticket to improving that. I'm going to open this up for a few questions before we finish up. Again, article is linked up there. I'll even show it underneath me right now. It's my article on new 49ers offensive lineman Aaron Banks and his Bay Area roots, which started on the hardwood, on the basketball floor, before he became an offensive lineman for the El Cerrito football team. So make sure to check out that link. I'm going to post it in the comments section for those of you who are not watching this live. And now I'm going to answer some questions, if we have any questions. We only have comments. We don't have actual questions. So let's read some of the comments. Mike Kenny, this guy's going to change defensive coordinator's thinking for the 49ers. He might have saved Garoppolo's career left with San Francisco. He might yet save Mike McGlinchey. It's a lot to put on Aaron Banks, but, in a way I agree. I think the 49ers absolutely need to shore up the interior offensive line. And who else it potentially benefits and who else it potentially saves is Trey Lance. There is no quarterback in the NFL who can operate without good pass protection, or at least decent pass protection. That quarterback does not exist. You want proof? Watch the Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs were just destroyed up front because they didn't have healthy offensive linemen, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers overran Patrick Mahomes. That was the one quarterback who I thought, he might be the exception to the rule. This guy's got a crazy release. He's obviously mobile. He did wild stuff against the 49ers in the later stages of that Super Bowl. I thought that Patrick Mahomes might be able to get away with not having great pass protection in the Super Bowl. I was wrong. A lot of people were wrong. And therefore, the rule applies to everybody. If Patrick Mahomes can't get away with leaky pass protection, Trey Lance can't get away with leaky pass protection. Jimmy Garoppolo can't get away with leaky pass protection. In fact, Jimmy Garoppolo has made the most out of leaky pass protection over his time with the 49ers because he's got that quick release. He's able to get the ball out. We don't know what Trey Lance is going to look like behind a bad offensive line yet, and I think the 49ers don't want to find out, to be honest. It could look really ugly for any quarterback behind a bad offensive line. So the 49ers, in protecting their investment in both Jimmy Garoppolo, there's a $26.6 million investment in him this year, and in Trey Lance, all those draft picks and the whole trade costs and everything, to protect both of those investments simultaneously, you also invest heavily in the offensive line. You do not want to find out how a quarterback is going to look behind a bad offensive line. It's not fun. Mahomes saw it. Jimmy Garoppolo has seen it. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't looked bad, but he's gotten hurt, so that's not good either. So you have to invest in front of him, and I think that Aaron Banks is part of that effort. Lauren H. asked, could he still dunk after all those 300-plus pound buffets? That's an interesting question because I didn't see a video of Aaron Banks dunking, but I did ask his high school basketball coach in the article that I linked, that I wrote today, if he did dunk, and he did say that there were a couple dunks in high school. My follow-up question was, did the backboard shatter? And I didn't get an answer on that one. So apparently the backboard stayed intact at El Cerrito, wherever Aaron Banks dunked. Maybe he only saved the dunks for the road to, make sure they didn't take down the hoop. This is a huge guy. But apparently he did dunk a couple times. I don't have video evidence of it, though, but I hope that answers your question as well as I possibly can. Aaron Banks said, you can't win games if you don't protect the QB. That's the mentality we need, says Music of His Life. You're absolutely correct. On Twitter, on TV, the talking heads way oversimplify this. It's not just the quarterback's game. Yeah, the quarterbacks are going to get the majority of the credit and the majority of the blame. But again, as you saw in the Super Bowl, a quarterback without good pass protection has no shot, and especially no shot to win a title. Alfonso Valdez asks, is the Catch podcast just you and Barrows now? No, I don't believe so. I think Dennis is going to be back. We're just not recording as many episodes here over the off season. But Dennis will be back in training camp and during the season. That's Dennis Brown, former 49ers defensive lineman. That's the Here's the Catch podcast. It's the Athletics podcast. You can find it anywhere. I think, Spotify, iTunes, on the Athletic. And it's me, it's Matt Barrows, my co-writer at the Athletic, and it's Dennis Brown. Chasing Gold asks, does Jimmy get traded or cut if Trey shows ready in camp and Rosen proves he can hold the backup position? Or are the 49ers set on keeping Jimmy until the deadline? That's a good question. Now, I mean, you pose an if, though. So if Trey Lance does show that he's absolutely ready in training camp and Josh Rosen proves that he's absolutely ready in training camp, of course, all of a sudden you have options to do whatever you want with Jimmy Garoppolo because you have your deep QB room, you have your rookie ready to go, you're set. The problem with that question, even though I think it's a good one, but this is something that we need to emphasize, is that's such a unlikely if. It's on a different planet almost. A lot of people are acting like it's easy to come into training camp and just be ready to execute a complicated offense. If that were the case, why did Patrick Mahomes have to wait a whole year? I mean, Patrick Mahomes had a lot of starting experience in college. He's obviously a transcendent player now. The Kansas City Chiefs are really, really happy to have Alex Smith in front of Patrick Mahomes for a full season. So that's not something that we should act like is even remotely, close to being likely. I mean, yes, it can happen. There are no absolutes. We can't rule out a special player like Trey Lance coming in and just blowing everybody away. But we already saw hints of it in OTAs. We already saw how comfortable Jimmy Garoppolo looked. We already saw that Trey Lance was, things were spinning for him. He was learning. Yes, that was his first exposure to the playbook. Yes, I suppose it's possible that he shows up a month from now at training camp, a completely different player as far as mastery of that playbook. But Kyle Shanahan knows better. John Lynch knows better. They both realize that as special as Trey Lance is, this is the NFL. This takes time, and the 49ers have the luxury of not having a bridge quarterback. They have an actual starting quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo under contract. So you don't let that go. You let that play out. In all likelihood, Garoppolo starts. And then if Trey Lance progresses the way that Trey Lance is supposed to progress, that the 49ers anticipate he'll progress, and Garoppolo plays well, then all of a sudden you've got amazing option power in 2022 or whenever, and you'll be able to recoup some real draft capital for Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, I heard some really, really stupid suggestion the 49ers should rework Garoppolo's deal and cut out the 2022 portion of it. Why the hell would you do that? You have him under contract through 2022. That is an asset. That's value. Why would you just give up an asset? Why would you take off a year of his contract for no reason? If things play out the way the 49ers think they could play out this year, Garoppolo will play well in 2021, and then he'll have immense trade value ahead of 2022 when he's still under contract. If he's not under contract anymore in 2022, he has no trade value because everybody knows you have to release him. So the 49ers shouldn't do anything to compromise their option power moving forward. And that doesn't mean that, somebody's endorsing Trey Lance or endorsing Jimmy Garoppolo. It just means that they have two good quarterbacks and that they could get the job done with those two quarterbacks. I mean, they could figure out what to do when the time comes. And if that happens, then they're all the richer for it. That's good for the 49ers. So it's one of those ifs that probably is not going to happen, but you address it as a contingency plan anyway, and you cross the bridge when you get to it. Yeah, chasing gold. Garoppolo's contract is well below market value by 2022. It's below market value right now. We shouldn't be kidding ourselves. Another, ridiculous suggestion. Oh, the 49ers should get, it would be more optimal if they had Jimmy Garoppolo at $10 million per year. Well, yeah, it'd also be more optimal if they had George Kittle at $4 million per year, or if they had Trent Williams at $3 million per year, or if they don't even have to ever re-sign Nick Bosa to a long-term deal. If they could just get Nick Bosa on some kind of short-term deal, or on some kind of rookie deal for the extended eternity. It's not realistic, though. Jimmy Garoppolo at his current cap number is a number 12 or 13 paid quarterback in football, and that's exactly where he ranks efficiency-wise. It's actually lower than where he ranks efficiency-wise, but I think that anybody who combines efficiency with what Jimmy Garoppolo is asked to do in the 49ers offense will tell you he's around number 12 or number 13. He's certainly not any lower than 15 or 16. So he's getting paid right around there. That's the market rate. The 49ers have a starting quarterback. You go to work with it. Asking to pay him $10 million a year is like trying to pay him Andy Dalton money, or somebody who's markedly worse than Jimmy Garoppolo. So Kyle Kyle Shanahan's being realistic about the price tag, and we'll see. No, Garoppolo's cap number isn't his cap number might be fifth, but it's the average per year of the deal. The 49ers structured the deal to impact the cap at different times, and I don't even think it's fifth. I think his cap number is like 12th or something going into this season. So that's a good question. I'll look at it, but it's not fifth. $26 million is not that high. In fact, Jimmy Garoppolo's year one cap, it was $37 million because they front loaded it. So I don't see there to be possible for his cap hit to rank fifth. I could be wrong, but you just look at the annual average value of that contract, and it's flexible. They haven't guaranteed him any money. They could get out of it whenever they want. Jimmy Garoppolo's contract is just not a problem for the 49ers right now. They're paying for what they expect to get. They can get rid of him anytime they want for no cost. You don't get rid of him until you're sure what Trey Lance is going to be. It's as simple as that. They have a short-term plan and a long-term plan. Anyway, we went kind of off the rails. This was supposed to be about Aaron Banks. I'm going to finish up about Aaron Banks. Tremendously versatile offensive lineman that the 49ers hope takes that right guard spot that I wrote about today, that grew up in the Bay Area, nice basketball background. You can rewind the video if you're just now joining the live to see some of the highlights that I shared. All new video of Aaron Banks' draft celebration. And of course, that basketball reel. That basketball reel shows you a lot about what the 49ers think about Aaron Banks' mobility, which is a huge, huge asset. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you subscribe. I have to get going because there's a lot out to do here in Tennessee. Happy Friday, everybody, and take care. And make sure you subscribe and read that article on Aaron Banks, because it is always cool when a player is able to stay home and fulfill his NFL dreams.